Hey, good morning, and welcome again to another edition of Ragamuffin Online. This summer, we are coming to you via the internet to stay connected and be together throughout the summer until August comes, and we're back on campus doing Ragamuffin like we normally do. And so today, I have Tom Varner with me, Carissa White, and Alex Clover, and we are excited to be here with you. And we're going to kind of take a little bit of a break what we usually do coming out of our book, and actually start talking a little bit today about what it really means to really be connected with the Lord, and what we do individually to make that connection. And part of our mission and our foundation at Ragamuffin is to have an authentic encounter with Jesus Christ, and to encourage that in all in everybody that comes through. And so today, I just kind of wanted to just talk about that a little bit with all of us. But I'm going to come out of Jeremiah 29, and we all know Jeremiah 29:11, where it says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for your welfare, not for your disaster, plans to give you a hope and a future." And we usually stop there, but here's the situation, verse 12 and 13. It says, "You will call to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you." Verse 13 says, "You will seek me and you will find me when you search for me with all of your heart." And so when we put those three verses together in the context, he's saying, I have plans for you. I have plans that will prosper you. I have plans that will be good for you, plans that will give you a hope and a future. And when we come to that place and we ask that question, like, okay, so how do we get those things? How do we live those things out? And verses 12 and 13 really just kind of tackles it. He said, "You'll find those plans that I have for you when you call to me, when you come and pray to me, when I listen to you, and when you seek me with all of your heart." Because when you seek me and you find me, that's when you're going to know the plans that I have for you. That's when you're going to know the good and perfect plans that I have for you. Romans 12:2 says a lot of the same thing, that when we're transformed by the renewing of our mind, that's when we begin to know the good and perfect will of God for our lives. So, with that said, I want to talk today about being connected with God, and having the connection with God that I think everybody desires. And we hear that a lot when we start talking about having a relationship with the Lord. You hear questions like, how do I know that the Lord is near? How do I know that God is there? And I think oftentimes we have those questions because, especially this generation, has a lot of superficial relationships. Like most relationships are usually connected through some sort of media device. All right? And so let's think about that for a second. I want to ask you this question. If you had to give up all technology except for one media device, what would it be? So you have your laptops and your tablets and your phone and your iPods and your, Fitbits and so on and so forth. If you had to give it all up and only keep one, which one would you keep?
I really only have one, so I'd keep my phone.
Yeah, boy. So if I said all technology, including your truck and your four-wheeler, and your phone would be out the window quick, wouldn't it? So yeah, you got your phone. And okay, so let me ask you this, Tom. Is most of your friendships and most of your relationships, are they connected through just your phone, or do you have a lot of one-on-one, face-to-face kind of friendships?
I guess I probably have a lot of interesting friendships. Like, I'm friends with a lot of guys from school that are a long ways away, so we'll text off and on or whatever, but really it consists of like a weekend every 6 months or something. So a lot of it's face to face, and there's just nothing in between.
That's good. Right on. What about you guys? If you had to get rid of it all except for one, what would you keep?
probably keep a computer.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd probably get rid of my phone before getting rid of the computer. 'Cause I feel like I would have more uses for that than just, well, my phone's kind of a small little slider phone, so I probably could go without that. So.
Okay.
But,
There you go.
I'd probably keep my phone.
Probably keep your phone. How come?
I don't know, I feel like I can do a lot on it. Like, most of the time when I'm doing homework, if I need help, I actually go to my phone, not my computer. And, like, I talk to people on it, and my parents would have a fit if they can't call me.
Yeah. That happened to me when I went to college. I spent 2 months at college and never called home, and my parents thought I had died.
Yeah.
And so they're like calling the school, calling my dorm. Like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to call you. Sorry. So it's funny. So if you felt like, think about all your relationships that you have with your friends and stuff. If you felt like if all your technology got taken away, including your phone, including your computer, including your truck. Oh, dang it. If all your technology got taken away, do you feel like you would end up being more connected with a lot of your friends because it would force you to have more meaningful connections? Or do you feel like you would be less connected with your friends because the means of your connecting would be taken away from you?
I personally think that I would almost, like, just stay the same. Because
Yeah.
the amount of times I don't have my phone, or I lose my phone, or I have it, but I'm not talking to anyone is, like, ridiculous. I
Yeah.
don't talk to people on it, and when I go home on weekends, I'll see my friends, or when I'm here, I'll see friends. So I don't know if it would change at all, actually.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a little bit of both for me. So like I have some friends that I think it would push me to a more meaningful relationship with them, but then I have some friends that like I've gone on mission trips with that are like all over the country that really the only way I can connect with them is through media and stuff like that. So I think it would somewhat kind of cut that off a little bit. But then there are some that I think even those that are all over the country, I think I still could be pushed more to a meaningful relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what's interesting is I've never really been a good friend. Like, I'm always a circumstantial friend, meaning I'm friends with the people that I'm doing life with at the moment. So, like, people that I've gone to college with would probably still be classified as friends, but, you know, it may be once a year that I see or talk to any of them, and I don't do a whole lot to stay in touch. And so for me, connectivity is a big deal, and feeling connected with somebody is really kind of like the life source of my friendships. And so, you know, a lot of the friends that I have here in town, you know, we're friends because we live in the same vicinity, we do the same things together, we have a lot of the same interests, so on and so forth. And so, you know, friendships a lot of times happen on purpose. And I think for me, like if you were to take away certain aspects, like certain technologies, you know, I would end up pursuing friendships even if I didn't have the technology to do it easily or even superficially for that matter. But let me ask you this question. So what are some things in your life, you know, if relationships and friendships are all about connections, when we have that relationship with God, what are some things in life that actually make you feel disconnected from God?
I think distractions, for me, like, I just get so consumed in other things, whether it's work or recreation or something that I've got going on, just for anything. I just get so busy that I don't stop to focus on God. I'm just wrapped up in my own little thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the busyness would be mine too. Like I just keep going, and then I'll like see my Bible, and I'm like, oh, I need to pray today, like, or I need to read the Bible today, or something like that. I don't know, a lot of times doesn't go with what I'm doing with that day. I don't have scheduled time to read my Bible, and so probably should do that, but I get lost.
Or even if, like, for me, I try to read my Bible, and I don't do it every morning, but every morning before I leave, I try to. But, like, this morning I knew that I had a full morning before I came here So even though I was spending time in the Word, I wasn't there mentally because I was thinking of everything else I had to get done before I get here, and I just, even though I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a funny thing, like with my wife and I, because we're together every day. We go to bed together every night. We wake up together every morning. Throughout the day we're texting, and we get off work and we go home and we get dinner ready and we clean the house and all the stuff, and we can go throughout our day just doing daily stuff, and kind of going through those motions. But if we don't take that time to really connect with one another, we can be together and feel completely alone. That is the weirdest phenomenon ever, to be completely alone in a group of people. It's crazy, and I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people. They feel that, oh, I know exactly how that feels. To feel like you could be with somebody or be in a group of people and still feel completely isolated. And I think at times that's what can happen with our relationship with God, where we have this, we know God is with us. We know that we're, walking every day with Him, but there's a disconnect, and a lot of times it is busyness. I know it's busyness for me. We were Chris and I were talking about this earlier, about how busy, just all the time, whether it's work or family or personal or this or that or the other. It's just busy, and it can really bring about that disconnection. And I think that disconnect is the source of all of our questioning when we ask that question, God, where are you? And so, looking at our verse today, when he said, I know the plans I have for you that prosper you and not harm you, give you hope in the future, and those plans are wrapped up in seeking me and searching for me and praying to me and finding me and searching for me with all of your heart. It's wrapped up in that. So in what ways, personally, do you feel most connected to God? And in what ways can you begin to start increasing, those encounters and those connections? Because obviously, we can tell right now that it's not a to-do list. I read my chapter today. I read my Oswald Chambers devotional, My Utmost for His Highest, and I listened to 3 worship songs, and so I'm good. And so it's not about that, because we've already established that you can be together and still feel alone. So what do you do personally that really fuels that connection? For me, I take my wife out on a hot date.
Oh, really?
And then we connected.
Oh my goodness. Stop.
Just stop it now.
Stop.
Stop it now. Everyone's blushing.
I think what I do that personally connects me is when I listen to worship music. It's on all the time when I play music. That's what I play. And sometimes I'll just go through the motions, I'll just listen to it in the background. But if I take the time, which I try to do normally, and just listen to what it's saying, whew, I love it.
Nose starts burning. I start watering a little bit.
Yeah, I love it.
It's good.
And whenever I try to actually be more intentional, with my quiet time and with listening to music, realizing it actually is a relationship, not just something that we do as a Christian. Actually realizing that, as I'm praying, I'm actually, having a relationship with God. I'm actually communicating with Him, and reading my Bible, it's He's actually speaking to me through what I'm reading and stuff. And I feel like when I'm actually making it more purposeful is when my relationship with Him is a lot higher.
Yeah, that's good. What about you?
I don't think I ever intend to do it, but thinking back, when I feel most connected to God is generally after everything I've been working on has came crashing down and I dropped it all. Whatever that I wanted to get done for the day didn't happen, and I come back and realize that none of these things that I've been pursuing can fulfill me, and then I look to God for my fulfillment. That's when I feel the closest to God, which that's sad that it all has to fall apart before I come to that point. But I really think that's when I feel closest to God. I should work on making that happen without a crisis.
That's probably true. That's probably true. But it is true, though, that, even in friendships or any other relationship, when crises happens, it draws people closer together, that support and that love and that everything you need is there. I think that, for me, it's one of those situations where whenever I feel the closest to God is when, kind of like what you were saying about being intentional, is recognizing the things that are happening in my life right now, that God's the one doing those things. And so learning to be thankful for situations and rejoicing in situations and giving God the credit, where credit is due. And then the more I recognize that, the more I begin to remember those realities. Like, oh yeah, God is the one doing these things. Oh yeah, God did make that happen. World isn't just by chance, and I'm not just, in this big lottery pool where, oh, Jeremiah got called to, participate in the Hunger Games. It's like, God is really in control, and He's really orchestrating these things, and the plans that He has for me are really His plans, and He's making those things happen. And I think that one of the ways that I've discovered is really like breaking from the chaos and trying to engage Him just in nature in general. Whenever I really need to pray about something, like I have some serious praying to do, I go out east of town, and there's this dirt road that leads down by the river, where it's right by a dam, and there's some wooded areas, and it's got trails you can go back in, and it's probably some guy's private property. And I go out there every once in a while, and I hear gunshots, and I'm thinking, are they shooting at me? And so, but I go out there, and I find these large rocks, and I pray against all snakes that might be in these rocks, and kind of shoo them away, and kind of tap them with sticks, and I get out there, and I don't know what it is about, the wind blowing and the water flowing and, the trees rustling and just like all the noise and the busyness of my life is just drowned out by nature. And when it's drowned out by nature, I'm just like, man, it's almost like I'm just there. And that's why whenever, you and I have talked about this before, like especially having like a prayer retreat, like when you got big decisions coming up, and you got to make big decisions that are going to like really determine a lot of like where your life is going to, what direction your life is going to go in. Man, I go on a prayer retreat. I take a tent. I take a big thing of water, and I take my Bible, and I just go by a lake, and I'll set up a tent, and I'll just stay there, for however long I need to, and just having those times where all I'm doing is just just meeting God in the very creation that He spoke into existence, recognizing like, this is like representation of You. Man, it just floods my soul, and I don't even know how else to explain it. I know it sounds old and kind of like churchy, but it happens, that I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed in that moment, and I just think to myself, all right, Lord, I need to hear from You, and I always do, and I don't know, that's like the most important thing for me, is that I always am able to hear from the Lord in the moments where I need to, and seeking Him. So here's my other question for you. We know we're connected with God by certain things: worship music, intentionality, even crises. How is being connected to God and loving God, or being loved by God, how is that? How are those things linked together? Being connected to God and then loving and being loved by God. Is it kind of an odd question?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me say it this way. It's no surprise that God loves us. Just like my wife and I. There's no surprise that we love each other. That's what marriage is all about. But when my wife and I are connected and we're on the same page, we're flowing on the same wavelength, that love becomes even more, not just obvious, but it becomes even more strengthening for the relationship between us. And so in our relationship with God, it's no different. Yeah, we love God, and we know God loves us, but when we're connected in that way, when our love for Him and His love for us, when they meet, it not only becomes obvious that that's true, but it does something in us. It changes us from the inside, and it strengthens us and empowers us. And let me just put it this way: if you could have that experience every single time that you connected with God, how often would you connect with God?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
So then we have a question here then. So the question is maybe not a question, but a thought. The thought is this. The two thoughts is, if we could have that experience every time we connected with God, and we don't connect with God, then that must mean that experience isn't true. Or the other thought is if we could have that connection with God every time we could have that experience with God every time we connected with Him, it means that we're just not connected with Him, even though that experience is still there. So, my question, I guess, is this, is that experience there every time we connect with God?
No, because I think it's based on feelings. And
I like this guy.
feelings will let you down. You're not always going to feel close or feel good. So God is very much there and very present and still loves you, but no, you're not always going to feel all good about it.
I think that's okay, that we don't always feel it. It makes that experience more enjoyable, I think. Because, I feel like we all pray almost every day or every day. But when you have that experience that you're talking about, it's overwhelming. Yes. So I think it's good that we don't have it all the time, but I agree that we don't.
It can cause us to have more faith too, if we're not having it every single time. That really, really amazing experience every time. It causes us to have more faith, I think, to still be trying to be more connected with God. Yeah,
that's right. The Bible tells us we live by faith and not by sight. You could probably translate it: live by faith and not by feelings. It's one of those situations where you're right. It is. It requires a lot of faith. That we go through high times which feel really, really good, but we also go through low times which are a struggle to get through. But either way, the Bible tells us the Lord's with us in both, and so that's good. But here's what I want to say to you this week. And I want to say it to you too. Is that I want you to find 2 ways this week that you can connect with God. Maybe worship, and maybe being intentional, and maybe all your cows are attacking you. I don't know. Everything's falling apart. Cows are on a rampage. But the reality is I want you to find 2 specific ways to encounter God with an intentional encounter, seeking Him with all of your heart, finding Him and having this authentic encounter with Jesus, and making that connection, and just having just some moments with Him. And I say that to say this, is that oftentimes a lot of the way, because you were saying how feelings are deceptive, because good feelings are deceptive, but also bad feelings are deceptive. And so that feeling of not being connected with God oftentimes has to do with us choosing not to engage, not to encounter. So I want to challenge you to take 2 specific moments this week and encounter God in such an authentic way, in such a powerful way that, it requires you to kind of break from everything else and just focus completely on that. When it says seek Him with all of your heart, that means your heart's not divided. Does it mean seek God, do homework, do this, make sure this happens, make sure that? It's all just seeking God. And I think when you do that, you will find a very, very, very good connection happening. So, hey, thank you again for joining us. Check us out at IamRagamuffin.com. Look at our past videos and our new videos coming up. And God bless you. Have a great week.